أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As you heard, this is the last of the series of majalis, which began on Thursday night, commemorating the Shahadat of Hazrat Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And if you remember last night, we discussed some doubts in relation to this lady whom we are all gathered to commemorate and give our condolences to Imam of our time. That indeed it is a difficult topic to discuss, difficult in a sense that it is very emotional when a person speaks about a mother, let alone the mother of Aimma. And therefore, what I decided to talk about tonight is that we gain more ma'rifat of this lady. A lot of time, our ma'rifat and the level of our recognition is from a certain view, from certain aspect. Some people might recognize Fatima Zahra from being an exemplary mother, which is according to their aql and according to their level of understanding. Some people might understand Fatima Zahra from being exemplary daughter, which is again to the nature of individual and their aql and their level of understanding. And some people might look at Janab Fatima Zahra from an exemplary wife. But Fatima Zahra is beyond that. She's not just an example for these three characters that are there, but there's beyond more than this as far as Fatima Zahra is concerned. I recited these verses from chapter number 108, which is the smallest chapter of Quran, and agreed upon by our mufassirin that it was revealed and it was referring towards Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. That we see that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses our Prophet and He talks to him to console his heart, to give solace, to give him patience when he had lost his infant children. And people were addressing him by calling him Abtar. A famous incident with As ibn Wa'il, who passes by Rasulullah after Rasul had lost his two infant children, and he speaks to him, then he comes to his members and his fellow brothers, and he says, I was speaking to that man who's Abtar. In other words, they had replaced the name Muhammad with Abtar. They used to go around calling him that. Even for Prophet, yes, he is an example for us, an exemplary figure for us. He's beyond some of these emotions that you and I go through, because he's an example. He lives up to that expectation. So we don't expect Prophet to have felt bad or to have complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against this behavior. Not in public, not in private. But nonetheless, he was sent as a man to you and I so that we can follow him. If he was an angel, then it would be very difficult for us to follow his footsteps. So he went through the same life experiences as you and I go through, so that we can look up to him and we can adopt his methodology. And therefore we see that Prophet must have felt emotionally sad when he was referred to by Abtar. And so in this regards, who comes in to give solace to Rasulullah? None other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see that on numerous occasions, Quran stands up for Rasulullah. When people were calling him Sha'ir, Majnoon, Sahir, Kahin, and all of these alqab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds by saying, وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ. We did not teach him poetry, nor is he worthy of being taught, or it is worthy of him being taught of that. When people called him Majnoon, Allah replied by saying, وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. Your companion is not Majnoon. Don't call him Majnoon. When people refer to him as Sahir, a magician, Allah stands up for Rasulullah and calls those people. And when people were calling him Abtar, Allah calls them back saying, إِنَّ شَانِعَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. Indeed, your enemy is the one who's Abtar. You don't have to feel sad about it. Because they're just looking at it from physical aspect as to how their progeny will continue through male children. And since you have lost your male children, your progeny will cease to exist. We see this is the smallest chapter of Quran. And yet in the smallest chapter of Quran, the biggest of the mafahim are included. Salawat Bibi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this smallest chapter of Quran, the biggest of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are found. I said this early this morning as well. For those who came for Fajr Salat, I have a discussion on Saturday mornings. Some of you were there, so I apologize for the repetition, but most of you weren't there. So I encourage, as my Ubay announced, that we have Fajr prayer, 6 o'clock in the morning, going forward from tomorrow. This is an opportunity to attend and be part of it, start your day correctly by performing Salat in Jamaat. I emphasized about it last night as well. So we talked about this surah, which contains only 3 ayat. And it is memorized by every single one of us. We all know the meaning of this chapter, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing our Prophet that inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. If you look at the nuzul of the surahs of Quran in the tartib that they were revealed, not in the tartib that they are placed in Quran, because that is different than the one that was revealed. You find Surah Alaq be the first one. And then you find Surah Muzammil, you find Surah Muddassir, you find Tabbat Yada, you find Surah Duha, Surah Inshira, and then you find Surah Kawthar. This is the sequence by which the surahs were revealed unto Rasulullah. In Surah Duha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. We will bestow upon you something in future which will make you satisfied, which will please you. And that was when Prophet had lost his children. when Allah reveals the surah, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, it was when Prophet was given Janab Fatima Zahra. So the word Kawthar is referring to her. The point that I want to make over here, I'm sure you've heard this many times, the point that we want to derive from this is to look at the way Allah addresses in this surah. You find in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses inni or inna. Inni with dhamir mutakallim, that I. Inna with dhamir mutakallim for plural, we. He said, I did this. Ana rabbukum fattaqun. I'm your Lord, so worship me. Ana rabbukum, inni ana al-ghafur. I am the one who forgives people. He says, Ana rabbukum fa'budun. I am your Lord, go ahead and worship me. All of these places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or inni, when he uses this dhamir mutakallim for individual, he's talking about that which is specific to him. But then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses things in which it involves others to go ahead and perform their jobs as well, he uses the sigha for plural, which is inna. And therefore we find in Quran on numerous occasions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about that he created man, he said what? Indeed, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ. Indeed, we created man. Or when he said, when we reveal this rain, he said, we are the ones who send this rain, because it involves all of these other angels who are working towards it. Or anything which shows the magnitude or exaltedness in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to relay this message, he uses the plural sense. You and I can also testify to this. Sometimes we say, I came, well, more so in Urdu, I guess, in Farsi, I guess, than in English. You don't really say when you're coming by yourself, we came. But in Urdu, you can relate to it. Instead of saying, main aaya, kehte hum aaye hain. So it just shows more respect, the way you address yourself, with more grandeur, if you want to call it. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about it, only 4 places in Quran, 4 chapters of Quran begin with this, grandeur. Inna. One, when he talks about sending one of his ulul azm nabi, he said, Inna arsalna Nuhan. Indeed, we sent Hazrat Nuh. Second, when he talks about the biggest conquest and the victory of Islam, Fatih Makkah, he says what? Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Third, when he talks about the most important scripture for human beings and for Muslimin in particular, he says what? Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. And lastly, when he talks about the biggest favor to Rasulullah, he says what? Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Indeed, we have bestowed upon you Kawthar. You might look at what's so common about these 4 places. There's not a 5th place where a surah begins with inna. You'll find many innas in Quran, but not in the beginning of the chapter. These 4 chapters, the khususiyat is that they start with the word inna. One is talking about ulul azm nabi. Second is talking about the biggest favor, victory of Islam. Third is talking about the scripture, which is a manual for mankind. And fourth is talking about Kawthar. Even from that aspect, if you put these 4 together, you would oblige and ask as to what does Kawthar mean? Does Kawthar really mean a pond in paradise? Does Kawthar really mean this nabuwwat that Prophet has been given? Does Kawthar really mean this river? Does Kawthar really mean ilm? Does Kawthar really mean this wealth? Or is it beyond that? People are questioning Rasulullah that your progeny will not continue. Your legacy will die. This is the answer to them. That indeed we have given you Kawthar. That means we have given you Fatima Zahra. Go ahead and pray and give sacrifice. Indeed your enemy is the one who's childless. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defending Rasulullah in one sense. And also at the same time giving an answer to those who are calling Prophet Abtar. Therefore, there's no doubt whatsoever as to what the word abtar means. You and I are told by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the ahkamat, in our akhlaq, not to brag about the favors that you do to others. You've done a favor to someone, put it in the vault and forget about it. But it's very difficult. When I do something good, I want to make sure that everybody finds out about it. Otherwise, if people didn't see it, then regardless of how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward me for it, I want the rewards from the eyes and wah of the people. So if the people didn't see it, then it doesn't really matter, as if I have not done anything at all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us over here that when He bestowed this favor onto Rasulullah, so that he doesn't feel nobody should feel ashamed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah bragged about it over and over, that I'm giving you this favor, I'm giving you this favor, I bestowed upon you this favor, nobody should feel ashamed. But Allah wants to keep this level with His Prophet, that he doesn't use these words ever again. There are 5 words that are used in this smallest chapter of Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not repeat these words, lest His Prophet would see these words and he will remember this favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and might feel bad. You and I, when we do a favor to someone, forget about using those words. Forget about that favor. You've done it. Reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat Biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the last comment in regards to this surah that I recited in front of you in Al-Kawthar, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, after having said that indeed we bestowed upon you Kawthar, right away He asks Allah's Prophet to perform something. So this is where when Allah gives, He asks something in return. He says what? He says, فَصَلِّ. So go ahead and pray, wanhar, and go ahead and give sacrifice. 2 things are being asked from Rasulullah. That I've given you Kawthar. I want 2 things out of you. As a gratitude, go ahead and pray. Prophet was already praying. And second, go ahead and give sacrifice. These 2 things are being asked. Just a brief comparison. Someone might say the biggest event in the history of Islam, or the biggest occasion in the history of Islam, would be conquest of Mecca, because Prophet is going back to his homeland, the land from which he was driven out of, the land which was taken away from him. Imagine when you're taken away, something is taken away, and eventually triumphantly you take it back. How do you feel about it? So that would be the biggest advent in the history of Islam. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. When we have given you this nasr, this victory, and that is also referring towards victory of Makkah, conquest of Makkah, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask Prophet to do? فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ. Go ahead and perform the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My question to you is, which act is bigger? Tasbih is a bigger act, or fasalli, salat is a bigger act? Salat, which is also alongside with wanhar, the best of the sacrifices, which you understand by looking at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is demanding from Rasulullah. You can understand which one of these 2 are a bigger event. Is Kawthar a big event, or is Kawthar more important, or Fatima more important? Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This was just a tamheed to get to what I wanted to talk about tonight in regards to Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have mentioned that He has 99 names. وَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has these asma'ul husna. Go ahead and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with these asma. Similarly, when Allah has 99 names, it says لِفَاطِمَةٍ تِسْعَةُ أَسْمَاءٍ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Indeed, Fatima has 9 names near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are these 9 names? Inshallah, we'll go through these 9 names as quickly as possible, deriving some of the messages from these names, which might be useful as far as our daily routine and our practices and matters pertaining to our family lives are concerned. First name, which we are all aware of and accustomed to, is Fatima. That is her name. We find 2 riwayat, many riwayat in this regard, but 2 very prominent riwayat in this regard as to why she was named Fatima. It says, وَإِنَّمَا سُمِّيَتْ فَاطِمَةً لِأَنَّ الْخَلْقَ فَطِمُوا عَنْ مَعْرِفَتِهَا. The reason she was named Fatima is because people would not know the proper recognition of Fatima. They would remain aloof and they would remain unaware of the proper recognition of Fatima. As I mentioned earlier, some people recognize her as being the exemplary mother, that she raised children such as Hasanain, Zainab and Kulthum. People will remember her as an exemplary wife, where Amir al-Mu'mineen is testifying that I never saw Fatima disobey me. And I never made Fatima do something which she did not like. The relationship between husband and wife. And the question that Prophet had asked, "O Ali, how did you find Fatima?" He replied by saying, I found her to be best of my companion as far as my ibadat is concerned. I found her to be the best helper in my ibadat. People say, why don't you come for Fajr anymore? Well, I got married. What does that have to do with coming for Fajr? Here, Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying that by marriage, my ibadat is getting better. From the spiritual aspect and from the other aspects as well. 2 rakat salat by a married person is equal to 70 rakat by a bachelor, a single person. But aside from this, why don't you come for Fajr? Family, children, this and that. Yes, we can understand once in a while. But constantly, how is it possible? Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying, my ibadat increased. Why? Fatima became the best helper in performing this ibadat. Not that she's pulling me back from performing this ibadat. And I don't think anyone's spouse pulls anyone back from performance of ibadat. Too much ibadat? Yes, you're not going to do too much ibadat. You're not going to, stay in masjid all day long. Now, nobody's asking you from that. But at least when it's time for salat, make sure that you're able to come and participate in that. So one thing is people recognize her through her being an exemplary wife. People recognize her through being an exemplary daughter. That too, daughter of Rasulullah. And she became to be known as what? Abiha. That she's the mother of her father. I mentioned that in the Friday khutbah as well. That the reason a daughter is referred to as the mother of her father is, remember, Rasulullah was raised without a father and a mother. So he always lacked that motherly figure to come and, take care of him in that way. Fatima Zahra, despite her young age, was playing that role. That's why she got this title of Abiha. She was known as Abiha, the way a mother would take care of her child. Here I want to make a note that a lot of people name their children after the names of Ma'asumin, which is a good thing. Today I'll be mentioning these 9 names. This will be key for you to go ahead and name your daughters one of these names. But there are certain titles of Janab Sayyidah, such as Abiha. Take the full name, Abiha. That has meaning. If you go ahead and name your daughter Abiha, there's no meaning to it. Abiha means her father. That's what you're naming your daughter. Add the word Abiha, therefore it becomes the title of Janab Sayyidah. So people do not know do not have proper recognition of Fatima Zahra. That's why her name is Fatima. Second place, it says, he says, Summaitu ibnati Fatima. Prophet said that I name my daughter Fatima لأن الله فطمها وفطم من أحبها من النار. The reason I name my daughter Fatima is because she is protected from hellfire, and those who love her will be protected from hellfire as well. Later on, we will see there's a hadith which mentions, again, Prophet is mentioning how the love of Fatima will be helping you on many occasions. And there will be few occasions that will, inshallah, go through. So one of the reasons that why she's named Fatima is because she is protected from hellfire. And not just herself, those who are her followers, those who love her are also protected. Here, I'll take a moment to ask all of you, what is the taqaḍa of love? What does love demand? What is the demanding of love? For example, a husband and wife, there's love between them. As the ayat of Quran says, there's love between husband and wife. What is the demand of this love? Demand of this love is that you listen to one another. Demand is that you obey one another. Obviously in things which are permissible, not in those things which are impermissible. So therefore, this is the taqaḍa of love, that a person looks at all the demands of this individual and obeys this individual. When we claim that we love Fatima Zahra, our claim should not just be utterance from the tongue. Rather, it should be a love filled with all of those things that she's demanding from us. Otherwise, this love is just something which is the utterance of the tongue and does not really have any meanings, none whatsoever. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There are many other riwayat in this regard, and I will go through it quickly because I look at the clock and I've already taken half of my time. That the second name, as far as Fatima Zahra is concerned, which is mentioned, is Siddiqa. She's known as Siddiqa. That could be a very beautiful name if you wanted to name your daughters Siddiqa, which comes from the root word of sadaqa, which means to someone who's righteous, the one who is truthful and honest. Quran numerous occasions talks about this. In Surah Hujurat, we read that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the criteria for those who are sadiqeen. He says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا وَجَاهَدُوا بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّادِقُونَ. Those who do these things, those who believe in Allah and His Prophet, and those who sacrifice their wealth and their nufus, their souls, these are the ones who are in reality sadiqeen. But there was one sentence in between which I did not translate. ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. That they believe in Allah and His Prophet, and then they do not doubt for 1 second as far as the commands of Allah and His Prophet is concerned. So if you and I want to stay on this criteria of sadaqat and known to be sadiqeen, because this address in Quran is to mu'mineen, and alhamdulillah all of us are mu'mineen, then we have to live up to this expectation that mu'min is only that person who has brought iman on Allah and His Prophet, and then he does not doubt for a second as far as the decree of Allah and His Prophet is concerned. You find many people, self-proclaimed ulama, that they will say, this thing does not make sense. This fiqhi mas'ala does not make sense to me, and therefore I'm not going to follow it. This is the ayat for you. Mu'min is only that person who believes in Allah and His Prophet and then has no doubt, none whatsoever. Should not have any doubt. The fiqh that we have received is from this Quran. Quran is not a book of detail, does not have in detail the masail fiqhi. In fact, there are only 500 verses in Quran out of 6,200 and so verses which talk about the ahkam. So how are you going to derive all of the ahkam from this book? You can't. So you have to refer to the sunnah of Rasulullah. You have to refer towards the sunnah of Ma'asumeen, and only from that you can derive how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. And when the details are mentioned, then you should not go ahead and say, well, I don't believe in this. Sadiq, the concept and the criteria for Sadiq is one who believes in Allah and His Prophet, their commands, their teachings, and does not doubt one instance as what they have asked us to do. So that's the second name that she was given, as-Siddiqa. We see the third name that is given is Mubarakah. Mubarakah comes from the word Barakah. Barakah means blessings, the one who's bountiful, or multiplication, or abundance. And that is why we concluded that the Surah Al-Kawthar, the word Kawthar also means something which is given in abundance. Fatima al-Zahra is herself as an abundance to Rasulullah, because what which comes afterwards is in the legacy of Rasulullah. So she's Mubarakah. She's the blessed one. She's the one who is the one who will go ahead and remove this doubt from the minds of the people that no, Prophet is not abtar. Rather, this way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually changing the status quo. You always thought that the progeny of Rasul or progeny of man would continue through male children. No, this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to change your mentality. From here, the progeny will continue from a daughter, that too Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha, salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Name number 5 that she is given is Tahira. Tahira is a very beautiful name, and that is amongst the names of Janab Sayyida, which itself speaks out that someone who's virtuous, someone who's pure, as mentioned in the verse of Ayat Tathir, that إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ. And he wants to purify you, tathira. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so she was not like other women who was sometime would become impure. She was always pure. And that is again one of the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it is everything is possible when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the one who creates the law, and He's the one who can intervene and change the law. So there's no other woman who would duplicate Janab Sayyida in this regard, that she was the one who was always pure. That she never went through the impure things that women usually go through. And that's why she was a ma'asuma. And a ma'asuma can only marry a ma'asum. Had it not been for Amir al-Mu'mineen, Janab Sayyida would have remained unmarried. Because a ma'asuma can only marry a ma'asum. So she's one of those who are tahir, one of those who are pure. Janab Maryam was the same way. She remained unmarried. Why? That's the reason, because there was no ma'asum in her time. One was Zakaria, who was married to her sister, and the other one was Yahya, who was too young that she could marry. Therefore, she remained unmarried. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nonetheless still provides to Janab Maryam this, where she is given this child, and so her progeny continues. But we see Janab Sayyida in this regard is known as Tahira. Next we see her name is Zakiyya, the one who purifies oneself. This is amongst the sifat of Rasulullah. This is amongst the wajibat of Rasulullah, if you want to call it, that on numerous occasions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. What is the purpose that we have sent Rasul? So that he can go ahead and purify you. So Janab Fatima al-Zahra is known as Zakiyya, that she is the one who pure herself, and she purifies as well. So therefore we see that her emphasis that Islam lays upon self-purification is so much that those who we want to emulate are pure in this way, as Zaki in this way. You go ahead and read Surah Shams. After 11 oaths, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا, towards the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. After 11 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath in regards to this, in regards to this. And then after 11 swears, Allah says what? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Indeed, the one who purified himself is the one who is successful. Success is only with those who have purified themselves. Therefore, Zakiyya is one of the titles of Janab Sayyida. Next we see her title is Radiyya or Radiyya. Both could be said Radiyya, Mardiyya, as the ayat of Quran mentions that she was Radi upon the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never once did she complain in regards to anything. Yes, we find this rawaya that it was difficult for Janab Sayyida at times when she was busy doing the work of the house. She was taking care of the children. She was doing all the work while Amir al-Mu'mineen was helping her out. And this is before she had any kaneez with her who would help her out in the form of asma or in the form of fidda. Amir al-Mu'mineen suggests to Janab Sayyida, go ahead and ask your father to give you a kaneez so she can help you out in the affairs of the taking care of the household things and household chores. She goes and asks her father. Her father tells her that I will teach you something which will be better than any kaneez. And this is where we listened and we heard that Janab Sayyida was taught this tasbihat, that go ahead and say Allahu Akbar 34 times, go ahead and say Alhamdulillah 33 times, go ahead and say Subhanallah 33 times. You have glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 100 times. It will ease all of the affairs that you have in your house. And this is where we get to know the importance of tasbih Janab Fatima Zahra, which is Ma'sumin have mentioned that a person who performs the salat and neglects this tasbihat, as if he has neglected asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah says this person found me worthy of worship and prostration, but did not find me worthy of asking from me. So Allah is someone who says, ask me, ud'uni, so that I can go ahead and answer you. And tasbihat are part of that. It's the taqib of salah, so make sure that you do not omit. You might omit other things, but taqibat of salat, this tasbih is something which you can perform even when you are walking around. So one of her title is Radiyya, that she was Radi with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we see that she always asked for others and she did not ask for herself. Our second Imam is the testimony of this. She said, Ra'aytu ummi Fatima, I saw my mother Fatima, qamat fi mahrabiha. She was standing in the mihrab on light of Jum'ah, Shab Jum'ah as we call it. Falam tazal raqi'atan sajidatan hatta ittazaha amud as-subh. She was performing the ruku and the sujood until it was morning. وَسَمِعْتُهَا تَدْعُو لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. I heard that she was making dua for all of the mu'mineen wal mu'minat. وَتُسَمِّيهِمْ, and she was naming them as well. وَتَكْثُرُ الدُّعَاء لَهُمْ, and she was making abundance of dua for them. وَلَا تَدْعُو لِنَفْسِهَا بِشَيْءٍ, but she did not ask for anything for herself. I asked her, فَقُلْتُ لَهَا يَا أُمَّا لِمَا لَا تَدْعِينَ لِنَفْسِكَ كَمَا تَدْعِينَ لِغَيْرِ. Why don't you ask for yourself the way you're asking for others? She replied by saying, I've heard your grandfather said, Ya bunayya, al-jar thumma ad-dar. Before you ask for yourself, go ahead and ask for your neighbors. Go ahead and ask for your peers. Go ahead and ask for your family members. And then when you have time, go ahead and ask for yourself. This is what the practice of Janab Sayyida was, that every Shab Jum'ah, night of Friday, she will stand up in this ibadat and she will make dua for all of her family members, according to Imam Hassan Mushtaba Salawat Biji Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Number 8 is she's known as Mardiyya, someone who is pleased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At one point, she's pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At one point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with her as well, Mardiyya. And this is a place which is not attainable by very leniency. Nobody can attain this place, rank easily. And you have to work hard so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also pleased with you. You can keep on saying that I am Radi, but what if the other side is not Radi with you? As a joke, usually you've heard that a bachelor came and said, well, I'm 50% ready for marriage. What does that mean? Because I'm Radi, but I don't know about the spouse, if she's Radi yet or not. Well, you need her ridayat as well in order for you to get married. So this 50% really is 0%. So ridayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very important as well in this regards. And we see that Janab Sayyida lived up to that expectation, where the ayat of Quran says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. There are not too many souls in the world by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is radi with them. Amongst them is Janab Fatima Zahra. This is where Prophet, when he was speaking to Salman, he said, Ya Salman, do you know man ahabba Fatima fahuwa fil jannati ma'i. Whoever loves Fatima, he will be with me in Jannat. Wa man abghadaha fahuwa fin nar. And whoever hates her and has grudge for her, he will be in the hellfire. Ya Salman, hubbu Fatima, O Salman, the love of Fatima, yanfa'u fi mi'ati min al-mawatin. The hub and the love of Fatima will help you in many places, in 100 places. Aysaru tilkal mawatin. The easiest of those places is what? Al-maut, when death comes upon you. Wal qabr, when you're laid to rest in your grave. Wal mizan, when you're waiting for the decree from Allah in the mizan. When hashr takes place, when you're walking over the sirat, when muhasabah is going on. Faman radiyat anhu ibnati radiyat anhu waman raditu anhu. And whoever my daughter is satisfied with, I am satisfied with them as well. And whoever I am satisfied with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is satisfied with him as well. وَمَنْ غَضَبَتْ عَلَيْهِ فَاطِمَةٌ. And whoever Fatima is angry with, غَضَبْتُ عَلَيْهِ وَمَنْ غَضَبْتُ عَلَيْهِ غَضَبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. And whoever I am angry with, Allah is angry with them as well. وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ يَظْلِمُهَا. Woe unto those who do zulm upon her. وَيَظْلِمُ بَعْلَهَا. And those who are going to go oppression upon her spouse, Amir al-Mu'mineen. وَوَيْلٌ لِمَنْ يَظْلِمُ ذُرِّيَّتِهَا وَشِيعَتِهَا. And woe unto those who are oppressive towards her dhurriyat, her progeny, and as well as her Shia, her followers. So here we see the hub of Fatima Zahra, as we mentioned before, is something which will help you in all of those places. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So here the question arises, does this hub is enough, or do we need to do something as well in order to gain this hub, or in order to gain this shafaat from Ma'suma? Here indeed, if a person came to me and he said, Moulana, I want a referral from you because I want to get married. And if I see that there's this proposal, and if I go ahead and tell them about you, if I lied, if I hid a few things just to make you look good, I have indeed done injustice. I haven't been adil. Or for example, someone says, Moulana, so-and-so businessman, I need a job. Can you go ahead and do my sifarish? I make a few contacts, I call a few people, a place which you're not deserving, I get you that job. Yes, you will be fond of me all your life, but have I really done what is the justice, demand of justice? No. Anyone who finds out about this, Moulana did this, la hawla wa la quwwata. He did sifarish when you did not even deserve this place. He offered you and he went ahead and this intercession, if you want to call it, while you did not deserve this. He recommended you while you did not even have the proper qualifications. It is indeed wrong. When you and I can realize this fact while living in this materialistic world, that we should not go ahead and do recommendation for someone when they don't deserve that place, then let's go ahead and ask our Masumeen, are they going to go ahead and do our shafaat when we don't deserve this place? Bring some actions with you so that tomorrow Masumeen can look up to you and say, yes, he's done enough. Let my shafaat push him through and let him be in this paradise. So when we say we are the followers and the lovers of Ahlul Bayt and we want their shafaat and intercession on the Day of Judgment, let's have some weight as far as our actions are concerned, so at least we bring some baggage with us. Otherwise, how are we going to stand up in front of them with our arms empty and hands empty and asking for sifarish so that they can push us through? When you and I will not do something like this in this world, in this materialistic world, how would we expect our Masumeen to do something like this? Next, her name is Muhadditha. She is known as the one who is spoken with or spoken by the angels. There's this book called Mushaf Fatima. I'm sure you might have heard about it. There might have been speeches and lectures about it. There's a whole discussion that could be done in this regard. Just to clarify, what is this Mushaf Fatima? That Mushaf Fatima is something which Mufassirin have mentioned, Rawat and our Mu'arrikheen have mentioned, is that angels used to visit Janab Sayyida after the wafat of Rasulullah to console her heart, and the instructions that the angels were given were documented by her or Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that became a book known as Mushaf Fatima. This is not an explanation of Quran. In fact, it does not even contain the verses of Quran, so that nobody tomorrow claims that Shias believe in another Quran known as Mushaf Fatima. They don't believe in this Quran, they believe in another Quran which is known as Masjid-e-Ali or Mushaf Fatima. No. In fact, Mushaf Fatima, we don't even know what's in it, and we know one thing that's not in it, that is Quran. just to keep it separate from Quran. We know that it is not Quran, nor is it part of Quran. What is it? That angels used to visit Janab Sayyida. People might raise question, aren't you pushing it too much? That angels used to visit Janab Sayyida? How is that possible? When it is possible for angel Jibreel and other angels to come and visit Janab Maryam salamullahi alayha and give wahi to her, to the mother of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, give wahi to her, then how is it impossible for you to think that they would visit Janab Sayyida? Janab Maryam was the best of the women of her time, while Janab Fatima Zahra is Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen, the best of the leader of the women of all times. So is it not appropriate for the angels to go ahead and visit Sayyida, while is it okay for the angels to visit Janabe Maryam salamullahi alayha? Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In fact, if you want, angels can come and visit you as well. Masumeen have mentioned ways that you can attract angels to your houses as well. It's not a difficult thing. You can if you wanted to. Amir al-Mu'mineen, this riwayat is in Usul al-Kafi, I've recited it before. He says, إِنَّ الْبَيْتَ الَّذِي يُقْرَأُ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ وَيُذْكَرُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. House in which Quran is recited and Allah is often remembered. What happens? يَحْضُرُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Malaika visit this house. If you want Malaika visiting your house, go ahead and recite Quran in your house. Go ahead and do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your house. But let me ask this question. How can you do the dhikr of Quran while you do the dhikr of shaitan? How can you combine the dhikr of Allah and the dhikr of shaitan together in the same house? This house where angels will not come. Instead, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, إِنَّ الْبَيْتَ الَّذِي لَا يُقْرَأُ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ وَلَا يُذْكَرُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فِيهِ. House in which Quran is not recited and Allah is not remembered. تَقِلُّ barakatuhu. The barakat decrease in this house. تَهْجُرُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Malaika stay away from this house. وَتَهْذُرُهُ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Indeed, shayateen get access to this house. So if you want your house to be a mahwar, a place where malaika are visiting, then this is a very straightforward formula for all of us to apply. So yes, Malaika used to visit her. They used to give her these instructions. They used to console her heart. This got documented and it was passed from one Masoom to another Masoom. There's a detail of what is contained in this book. Many things have been mentioned in this regard, the future events and so on and so forth, who will be the rulers. And all of these events are mentioned in this book, but it was kept in the hands of Janab Fatima Zahra, passed on to Ali ibn Abi Talib, and we believe that it is currently in the hands of Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Last name, and inshallah we'll conclude with that, is Az-Zahra. Janab Fatima is known as Az-Zahra, means splendid. When she got up for prayers, a light illuminated from her house and light illuminated from her face. In fact, when they were all going for mubahala, there was this nur that was coming out of their faces, which the people of Najran looked at and they said, indeed, we're not going to perform mubahala with these people. If we perform mubahala, I see faces. If they were to ask and make dua, Allah will move the mountains from its place. If they were to go ahead and pray against us, none of us will remain, not here and not anywhere else. So there was nur that used to come from the face of Janab Zahra. And the testimony of that is that amongst the riwayat that we find in this regard, person by the name Jabir ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi, he narrates from our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, who said that why is she named Zahra? He said, لِأَنَّ اللَّهَ خَلَقَهَا مِن نُورِ عَظَمَتِهِ. Because Allah created her with the nur, with His nur of His azamat. The azamat and the exaltedness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created her with that nur. فَلَمَّا أَشْرَقَتْ أَضَاءَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بِنُورِهَا. When she was born, when she was created, the skies and the heavens and the earth were illuminated by her. وَغَشِيَتِ الْأَبْصَارِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. And the absar of malaika, the eyes of malaika were covered. وَخَرَّتِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ لِلَّهِ سَاجِدًا. That malaika went into the sajda of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقَالُوا إِلَهُنَا سَيِّدُنَا. Oh Allah, oh our Sayyid, مَا هَذَا النُّورِ. What is this nur that we are witnessing? فَأَوْهَى اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِمْ هَذَا نُورُ مِن نُورِي. This is a nur from my special noors, from my nur which belongs to me. أَسْكَنْتُهُ فِي سَمَائِي. I had kept it in the heavens. خَلَقْتُهُ مِنْ عَظَمَتِي. I have created it from my azamat. وَأُخْرِجُهُ مِنْ صُلْبِ النَّبِيِّينَ مِنْ أَنْبِيَائِي. And I will make it apparent from the sulb of one of my prophets. And then he says, أُفَضِّلُهُ عَلَى جَمِيلِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. The one who has fadilat over all of the anbiya. وَأُخْرِجُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ النُّورِ أَئِمَّةً يَقُومُونَ بِأَمْرِي يَهْدُونَ إِلَى حَقِّي. And from this nur, these a'imma will come forth who will be taking care of my umur and who will be guiding mankind. This is the nur of Janab al-Zahra, and that is the reason she's named as Zahra. We see that indeed these are the 10 names these are the 9 names rather that Janab Fatima al-Zahra has in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever it comes to naming a child, it is very important that we make sure and pay attention towards it. Why? Because it has effect on this child as well. When I bring you towards the masayib of Janab Sayyida, that indeed this is the night which is a very difficult night for Imam of our time. It was a very difficult night for a few children in this house as well, who were very close to this lady. As any child would be close to her mother, these children were very close to Janab Sayyida as well. That we read Janab Sayyida when she was leaving this world, when Amir al-Mu'mineen had gone to the masjid, and when Asma could not hear the voice of Janab Zahra anymore, he sent for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen makes his way back home, and he tries to speak to Janab Sayyida. Remember what she had said. She said to Asma, when you don't hear my voice, let it be known that I'm no longer alive. But when Amir al-Mu'mineen comes back, he says, "Wa kallimini." Oh Fatima, speak to me. Why don't you speak to me, oh Fatima? And this is where Janab Sayyida opens her eyes. And she speaks to Hazrat Amir for the last time. And then she gives him certain wasaya. She gives him certain wasiyat and certain wills. That, oh Ali, make sure that you fulfill these wills, as these are the last words that you will hear from Fatima al-Zahra. Just know the relationship of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyida, which we later on find out when Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he was given ghusl, which was also part of the wasiyat of Janab al-Zahra. She says in this will to him, she said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Hada ma awsat bihi Fatima bint Rasulillah. This is the wasiyat of Fatima, the daughter of Rasulullah. Awsat wa hiya tashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That she's given this wasiyat that there's no Allah except Allah, there's no Rabb except Allah. Wa manna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That Nabi Muhammad is the abd and the Rasul of Allah. She said, Wa anna al-jannata haqqun. Indeed, the paradise is on haqq and is on truth. وَالنَّارُ haqqun. The hellfires will take place as well. وَأَنَّ السَّاعَةُ آتِيَةٌ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. Indeed, the day which has been promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come as well. أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. And Allah will raise those who are inside their qubur. Ya Ali. This is where she speaks to Amir al-Mu'mineen. She says what? She said, Ya Ali, Ana Fatima bint Muhammad, Zawwajani Allahu minka. Oh Ali, I am Fatima bint Muhammad. Allah married me to you. Minka li'akuna laka fid dunya wal akhirah. So that I may be at your service in this world and as well as in the hereafter. Anta awla bi min ghayri. Oh Ali, you have right over me. Oh Ali, you are superior to me. Hannitni wa ghassilni wa kaffinni. Oh Ali, give hunud to me, give kafn to me, give ghusl to me, bil-layli, at night, wa salli alayya, wadfini bil-layl, and perform salat al-janaza upon me, and perform dafn me as well, wala tu'limu ahadan, and do not let anyone find out that you have buried me. And then she says one thing to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Oh Ali, have I been a good wife to you? Oh Ali, have I served you enough? Oh Ali, I don't think I was a good wife. Oh Ali, I have not served you the way a wife should serve. And these were the words of Janab Sayyida that came out of her tongue at last when she was leaving this world. Janab Sayyida leaves this world. She is no longer alive. The children have bid farewell. The little 5-year-old daughter says to Ali, Aina Ammi, where's my mother? And the way the Janab Sayyida used to go, Janab Zainab used to go for the ziyarat of her mother. We see how she used to go. Janab Fatima, when she left this world, it was also at night so that people do not come, that she does not want to attend. She was kept in this veil and this parda all her life. Even when she threatened to remove her veil, Amir al-Mu'mineen did not give her permission. And similarly, on the day of judgment, Rasulullah says, Qala munadin, munadi will call. He will say what? Ya ma'ashara nas, O people, ghaddu absarakum, lower your eyes, wa nakathu ru'usakum, and lower your heads, hatta tamurra Fatima, until Fatima passes by. This is the azamat of Fatima, that even on the day of judgment, when she is passing by, people are being told to lower your eyes and lower your head. I will say, oh Sayyada, and this is where we put our hands together and we say that your hijab was kept intact all your life, but come to Karbala, look at the hijab of Zainab Kubra, that how it was snatched the very first night. Secondly, when Amir al-Mu'mineen yelled out when he was given ghusl, later he was asked why he did that. He said there was a sign of a wound on the chest of Sayyada. I could not bear to control myself. This was one sign. Janab Zainab weeps for that. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Zainab, don't weep for this sign, because there will be similar wounds given to you comes the day of Karbala. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We do tawassul to Janab Sayyida. Ya Fatimatu Zahra, Ya Binta Muhammad, Ya Qurrata Ayn al-Rasul, Ya Sayyidatina wa Mawlatana, إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. Everyone. يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا وجيهة. So that nobody goes home without their hajat fulfilled. Ya wajihatan indallah ishfai. So that we can give condolences to Imam of our time. Ya wajihatan indallah ishfa'i lana indallah. Allahumma sallam. Fatima Zahra.